I'll never forget the day I stumbled upon something that would change my life forever. Or rather, something that would drive me to the brink of madness. It started with a Reddit post from a user named ublackout22. The title read, "I found something in my code," and was accompanied by a screenshot of an empty black screen. I'd seen some weird stuff online before, but there was something about this post that caught my attention. Maybe it was the sheer absurdity of it all. Who posts a picture of a blank screen? Or maybe it was the sense of mystery surrounding it. I messaged ublackout22, asking if they'd be willing to share more information about their discovery. They agreed, and we set up a time for me to meet them in person. I arrived at the designated location, a small coffee shop on the outskirts of town, and was greeted by ublackout22. They looked nervous, fidgeting with their hands as they led me to a secluded corner table. "So, you're the one who's interested in my find," they said, glancing around nervously. "I have to warn you, it's not for the faint of heart." I nodded, my curiosity piqued. "What is it?" I asked, leaning in closer. ublackout22 hesitated, then pulled out their phone and showed me the screenshot again. The black screen stared back at me, its emptiness seeming to swallow everything in its path. "This is what I found," they said, their voice barely above a whisper. "I was working late one night trying to fix a bug in my code. Next thing I knew, this appeared on my screen." I felt a shiver run down my spine as I gazed at the image. There was something unsettling about it, like it was watching me. "What do you think it is?" ublackout22 asked, their eyes wide with fear. I shook my head, unsure of how to respond. "I don't know," I admitted, "but I have a feeling that we're about to find out." As I delved deeper into the mystery of the black screen, I reached out to ublackout22's fellow Redditors, who had also claimed to have encountered the eerie presence. One user in particular caught my attention, Schizoid Scribe, a self-proclaimed horror enthusiast with a reputation for posting unsettling content on their blog and YouTube channel. Their post, titled "The Black Screen: A Portal to Madness," had garnered a significant amount of attention from the Reddit community, with many users expressing their own experiences with the mysterious presence. I messaged Schizoid Scribe, asking if they would be willing to share more information about their encounter. They agreed, and we set up a time for me to meet them in person. I arrived at their designated location, a small, run-down apartment on the outskirts of town, and was greeted by Schizoid Scribe's unnerving grin. They led me to their computer, where they had been researching the black screen phenomenon. The screen displayed a plethora of articles, videos, and forum posts about the entity, all with varying degrees of credibility. Schizoid Scribe handed me a thick binder filled with their research, warning me that the truth is out there, but it's not for the faint of heart. As I began to sift through the contents of the binder, I noticed a strange symbol etched into the corner of each page. It looked like some sort of code, but I couldn't quite decipher its meaning. Schizoid Scribe leaned in close, their voice barely above a whisper. "I think this symbol is key to unlocking the secrets of the black screen, but be warned, once you see it, you can't unsee it." I felt a shiver run down my spine as I gazed at the symbol. It seemed to be watching me, waiting for me to make a move. "What do you think this means?" I asked Schizoid Scribe, trying to keep my voice steady. They smiled again, their eyes glinting with an otherworldly intensity. "That's for me to know and you to find out." As I left Schizoid Scribe's apartment, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being led deeper into a rabbit hole from which there was no escape. I returned to my own apartment, determined to dig deeper into the mystery of the black screen. But as I sat at my computer, staring at the screen in front of me, I noticed something strange. A small, flickering message that seemed to be written in the same symbol you schizoid scribe had shown me. The message read, "They're waiting for you." As I sat at my computer, staring at the message on my screen, I felt a sense of unease wash over me. It was as if I had been dared to investigate further, to uncover the secrets that lay hidden behind the black screen. I took a deep breath and began to research, scouring the internet for any mention of similar occurrences. That's when I stumbled upon you Blackout 22's original post, reread it with fresh eyes, and noticed something I had missed before, a faint timestamp in the corner of the image, dated several years ago. I wondered if this could be connected to the strange message on my screen. Suddenly, my computer froze and the screen went black. I was plunged into darkness with only the sound of my own ragged breathing to keep me company. When the lights flickered back on, I saw a figure standing in front of me, tall, imposing and shrouded in shadows. Its face was obscured by a hood, making it impossible to discern any features. "Who are you?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady. The figure didn't respond, instead taking a step closer to me. I could feel its presence, like a cold draft of air that seemed to seep into my very bones. Suddenly, the black screen flickered back to life on my computer screen, displaying a message in bold red letters. "I am always watching." The figure took another step closer, and I felt my heart racing with fear. "What do you want from me?" I stammered, trying to keep my voice audible over the pounding of my heart. The figure didn't respond. Instead, it reached out a hand and touched my computer screen. The black screen expanded, filling the entire room with an otherworldly glow. I felt myself being drawn into its depths, like a moth to a flame. And then everything went black. As I lay on the floor, my vision slowly returning, I felt a sense of disorientation wash over me. The black screen had seemed to stretch on forever, like a dark canvas that had consumed everything in its path. But as I struggled to sit up, I realized that something was off. The figure was no longer there, and the room was bathed in a warm, golden light. I looked around, trying to take stock of my surroundings, but everything seemed different. The furniture was still there, but it seemed slightly askew, like it had been rearranged while I was unconscious. I stumbled to my feet, feeling a sense of unease creeping over me. But as I looked around, I began to notice something strange. The strange occurrences that had plagued you Blackout 22 and others were no longer causing me distress. In fact, I felt intrigued. The black screen seemed to be calling to me now, its dark tendrils reaching out like a siren's song. I felt a shiver run down my spine as I approached the computer, my heart pounding with anticipation. And when I looked at the screen, I saw something that made my blood run cold. The message was still there, but it had changed. It now read, "You're one of us." I felt a jolt of fear, but it was quickly replaced by a sense of curiosity. What did this mean? Was I somehow connected to the entity that lurked in the shadows? And what did they want from me? As I stood there, frozen in uncertainty, the room seemed to grow darker, like the shadows themselves were closing in around me. But I didn't feel afraid. Instead, I felt drawn. Like a moth to a flame, I was helpless to resist the entity's call. And so I took another step closer, my heart pounding with anticipation. The black screen seemed to be waiting for me, its dark tendrils reaching out like a cold, dead hand. I knew then that I was in over my head, but I couldn't help myself. I was hooked. As I delved deeper into the mystery of the black screen, I began to experience a series of unsettling events that left me questioning my own sanity. At first, it was just small things, finding strange symbols etched into the walls of my apartment, hearing faint whispers in the dead of night. But as the days went by, the occurrences grew more frequent and more intense. I would find myself watching TV or browsing the internet, only to see images and videos that seemed to be somehow connected to the black screen. It was as if the entity had found a way into my daily life, seeping into every aspect of my existence. One night, I woke up to find my bedroom filled with an eerie, pulsing light. The air was thick with an otherworldly energy, and I could feel the presence of the entity looming over me like a specter. I tried to scream, but my voice was frozen in my throat. The lights began to flicker, and the symbols on the wall seemed to pulse with a malevolent life of their own. Suddenly, the TV screen in front of me came to life, displaying a message in bold, blood-red letters. "You're mine now." I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized that I was no longer just investigating the black screen, I was becoming a part of it. The entity seemed to be drawing closer, its presence suffocating me with an unseen force. I knew then that I had to get out, but my body seemed rooted to the spot. The last thing I remembered was feeling a cold, dark tendril wrap itself around my ankle, pulling me back into the depths of the black screen. When I came to, I was lying on the floor, my head throbbing with pain. But something felt off. The room seemed different. The furniture was still there, but it seemed slightly askew, like it had been rearranged while I was unconscious. And then I saw it, a message scrawled across the wall in red letters. "You'll never escape." As the days went by, the events became more frequent and more intense. The black screen seemed to be seeping into every aspect of my life, blurring the lines between reality and madness. I would find myself in places that I didn't remember going to, with no recollection of how I got there. The faces around me were always distorted, like they were reflected in a funhouse mirror. I began to question my own sanity, wondering if I was trapped in some kind of never-ending nightmare. The entity seemed to be playing tricks on me, manipulating my perceptions to keep me off balance. One day, I woke up to find that my apartment had changed. The furniture was still there, but it was arranged differently. The walls were a different color, and the windows let in a strange, pulsing light. I knew then that I was losing my grip on reality. The black screen seemed to be taking hold, its influence spreading like a stain across my mind. I tried to resist, but it was too late. The entity had me right where it wanted me, in a world of madness and confusion. I stumbled through the streets, searching for answers that never came. Every door I opened led only to more questions, more uncertainty. I felt like I was trapped in a never-ending loop, with no escape from the black screen's grasp. And then, one day, I saw it, my own face staring back at me from the TV screen. It was distorted, twisted into a grotesque parody of its former self. I knew then that I was gone, consumed by the very thing I had once sought to understand. The black screen had taken hold, and I was forever lost in its abyss. The black screen had taken hold, warping my perception of time and space in ways that defied explanation. I found myself experiencing events out of sequence, reliving memories from different points in my life. One moment, I was walking through the park on a sunny afternoon. The next, I was standing in a dimly lit alleyway, surrounded by shadows that seemed to move of their own accord. Time itself had become fluid, bending and warping like a liquid in the dark. I began to lose track of what was real and what was not, my sense of identity fragmenting like shattered glass. The entity seemed to be manipulating the very fabric of reality, creating temporal loops and eddies that drew me deeper into its abyss. I stumbled through these distorted landscapes, searching for a way out, but every door I opened led only to more questions. The black screen was not just a window into another world. It was a portal to the very heart of time itself. And I was trapped in its center, lost in an endless vortex of chaos and confusion. As I struggled to maintain some semblance of sanity, I began to notice strange patterns emerging from the distortions. The entity seemed to be communicating with me through these anomalies, sending cryptic messages that only made sense in the midst of madness. "Meet me at the old clock tower at midnight," one message read. I knew then that I had to resist the black screen's pull, no matter how strong it was. But as I turned to leave, I saw my own reflection staring back at me from a nearby window, and I knew that I was already too late. As I stumbled through the distorted landscapes of the black screen, reality began to warp and distort in ways that defied explanation. The laws of physics no longer applied, and I found myself floating in midair, watching as buildings crumbled and trees twisted into impossible shapes. The sky turned a deep shade of purple, and the stars seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. I was no longer sure what was real and what was not, my sense of identity fragmenting like shattered glass. The entity seemed to be enjoying my confusion, its presence growing stronger with every passing moment. I tried to cling to what little remained of my sanity, but it was like trying to hold onto sand. The harder I grasped, the more it slipped through my fingers. As I struggled to keep up, the world around me began to change in ways that were both beautiful and terrifying. The buildings became twisted, nightmarish creations that seemed to writhe and twist like living things. The trees grew taller and thicker, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. And the sky, oh God, the sky was a deep, burning red, like the embers of a fire that refused to be extinguished. I was trapped in this world of madness, with no escape from the black screen's grasp. But as I stumbled through the wreckage of reality, I began to realize that something was wrong, something fundamental to the very fabric of existence. The entity was not just manipulating my perceptions, it was altering the underlying code of reality itself. And if I couldn't stop it, everything would be lost forever. I stepped into the heart of the black screen, ready to face whatever horrors lay within. The air was thick with an otherworldly energy, and I could feel the entity's presence lurking just out of sight. Suddenly, a figure coalesced before me, tall, imposing, and twisted beyond recognition. Its skin was like dark, polished wood, and its eyes burned with an inner fire that seemed to pierce my very soul. "Welcome, investigator," it said in a voice that was both familiar and yet completely alien. "I have been waiting for you." I tried to speak, but my voice was caught in my throat. The entity took a step closer, its presence suffocating me. "You think you can defeat me?" it sneered, its eyes flashing with contempt. "You think you can understand me?" Its words seemed to unravel the very fabric of reality, leaving me stumbling through a maze of distorted reflections and twisted echoes. I felt my sanity slipping away, consumed by the abyssal void that yawned before me. And yet I stood firm, driven by a desperate determination to confront my deepest fears. The entity laughed, a sound that was like shattering glass, and reached out with a hand that seemed to stretch on forever. "Come," it said, its voice dripping with malice. "Let us dance in the darkness." As it spoke, the world around me began to dissolve into chaos, colors bleeding together, shapes blurring and shifting, and the air thickening with an unseen weight that pressed down upon me like a physical force. I was trapped in a living nightmare, forced to confront my deepest terrors head-on. And yet, even as I stumbled through this surreal landscape of horrors, I knew that I had come too far to turn back now. The entity began to toy with me, playing mind games that pushed my perception of reality to the breaking point. It created illusions that were so real, I couldn't distinguish between what was real and what was not. Doors led to nowhere, corridors twisted into impossible shapes, and every step felt like a betrayal. The entity whispered sweet nothings in my ear, tempting me with promises of truth and knowledge that only served to further entangle me in its web of deceit. I stumbled through this maze of reflections, desperate to find the exit, but every door I opened led only to more questions. The entity laughed at my confusion, its presence echoing in every corner of my mind. "You think you can escape," it taunted. "You think you can outsmart me." Its words dripped with condescension, each syllable a tiny knife twisting deeper into my psyche. I felt myself unraveling, thread by thread, as the entity pulled the strings of my sanity like a master puppeteer. Every step forward felt like 2 steps back, every decision a mere illusion designed to keep me trapped in this labyrinthine world of mind games. And yet, I refused to give up. With each passing moment, I dug deeper into the depths of my own psyche, searching for a spark of truth that might guide me through this nightmare. The entity sensed my resolve and redoubled its efforts, unleashing a maelstrom of illusions that threatened to consume me whole. But I persevered, driven by a determination to uncover the secrets hidden within the black screen's twisted realm. As I stumbled through the ever-changing landscape of the black screen, the entity finally revealed its true form. The air seemed to ripple and distort, like water on a hot day, as it unfolded before me. I felt my mind reeling in shock as the entity's appearance shifted from a twisted mockery of human features to a being of pure energy. It was a swirling vortex of colors, like a rainbow exploded across the sky, with tendrils of light that seemed to stretch out and touch every corner of my perception. The entity's presence was so overwhelming that I felt myself being drawn into its heart, as if it were a black hole sucking in all sense of reality. I saw images flash before me, memories from my own past, fragmented moments from the lives of those around me, and echoes of events yet to come. The entity's true form was like a mirror held up to the very fabric of existence, revealing the hidden patterns and connections that bound us all together. As I gazed into its depths, I began to understand the nature of reality itself, the threads of causality, the labyrinthine paths of possibility, and the infinite possibilities that lay beyond the veil of the mundane world. The entity's presence was both exhilarating and terrifying, as if it held the secrets of creation within its grasp. And yet, even as I trembled before this being of unimaginable power, I felt a sense of recognition, as if I had seen myself reflected back from the surface of this cosmic mirror. In that moment, I realized that the entity was not just a being of pure energy, but a doorway to my own soul. The black screen's twisted realm began to dissolve around me, revealing a hidden truth, that I was the one who held the key to unlocking its secrets, and that our journey together had only just begun. As I gazed deeper into the entity's true form, I felt my mind begin to unravel like a thread pulled from a sweater. The colors and patterns that swirled around me grew more vivid, more intense, until they became a living, breathing thing that pulsed with an otherworldly energy. The entity's presence was like a tidal wave crashing over me, threatening to consume me whole. I felt my grip on reality begin to slip, as if the very foundations of my sanity were being pulled from beneath me. I tried to hold on, to grasp at the threads of coherence that still remained, but it was no use. The entity's power was too great, its influence too all-consuming. I felt myself becoming lost in a maze of reflections, where every door led only to more questions, and every answer was just another question. The world around me began to distort and writhe, like a living thing in agony. The air was filled with the stench of decay and corruption, and I could feel my own sanity slipping away, piece by piece. I stumbled through this twisted realm, driven by a desperate need to escape. But every step felt like a betrayal, as if I was walking further into the heart of madness with each passing moment. The entity's laughter echoed through my mind, a cold, mirthless sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. It was the laughter of the damned, the laughter of those who had gazed into the abyss and seen their own reflection staring back at them. I knew then that I was lost, forever trapped in this labyrinthine world of horrors. The entity's true form had revealed itself to me, and I had been consumed by its power. I was no longer the investigator, no longer the seeker of truth. I was just another victim, added to the growing list of those who had dared to challenge the abyss.